I'm really excited because I'm about to go in and film the next episode of a Story in Music podcast, this time with David Stacey, formerly of David Lloyd, Virgin Active, quite recently as Managing Director of Zip World, and now at Silverstone Motor Racing Circuit. He's also a good friend and an ex-colleague of mine. I can't wait to hear his story in music. Welcome, David Stacey, to a Story in Music podcast from Johnson Digital. Thanks for coming.
Great to be here.
And now, in advance, David, I've asked you to come up with 8 songs that represent your life.
Yeah, it's been quite a challenge, actually. I'll talk about that a bit more after the first song. But yeah, I could have chosen probably 800 songs, but narrowing them down was part of the task. So hopefully, the ones I've chosen today will really give a true representation of the journey I've been through.
All right, well, let's go. The first one I asked you to pick was the song from the year you were born. So let's have a listen. So that's the Monkees' I'm a Believer from 1967, I think, David, isn't it?
It is 1967, yes, quite a while ago. And it was interesting, actually, because I think I tried to pick a track from the day I was born, but I didn't like it very much. I can't remember what it was. But there were a number of tracks in that year, some really big tracks, actually. So there's Bee Gees, Massachusetts, there was Beatles, All You Need Is Love, and there was Procol Harum. By Mott the Hoople. I mean, absolutely brilliant
classics.
Tracks, absolute classics. But actually, I chose that track because of the title, "I'm a Believer," which I think it sort of represents something about me and my values. And I am a natural believer. I'm a believer in certain things, in certain parameters, in a certain destiny, it just resonated with me. And then the other bit that struck me actually was. I've listened to that song a huge amount of times, and I couldn't work out where I'd listened to it. And then I went through Wikipedia the other day, and I thought, there we are. Having 3 young sons at the time when Shrek came out, it was one of the main songs on the Shrek movie. It was. and it's a really cool piece in Shrek, actually. And that's when it re-hit the charts. I think it was early 2000s. I think it was about 2001, 2002. So my youngest son would have been 4, Oliver. And my middle son, Harry, would have been 2. So, and Harry in particular loved those films. So, it really resonated from that point of view, but also personally and more broadly with my boys.
So that would have really paid for the Monkees' pension, appearing in a Hollywood movie like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they got a second kick, and I think there were further kicks where it came through again and again. It's been it's had constant sort of peaks over the last 57 years, and it's a great tune as well, isn't it? I mean, it's really melodic, and I used to watch the Monkees on the TV when I was a young lad.
Yes.
Yeah, it was one of those. I think it was on a Saturday morning. Where various different bits and pieces were on, like Champion the Wonder Horse. You wouldn't remember these, no. Anthony and Lassie and things like that, and Zorro. They were the Saturday morning
pro.
Yeah, Bill and Ben.
Was that earlier?
It was that era. Absolutely, it was that era. And the Monkees were on at that time. Obviously an American import, but yeah, great track. And but it was the reason I chose it was the title.
When my wife heard that you'd picked that as your song, the song from the year you were born, she wasn't surprised, because I sort of see you as an optimist.
Absolutely. I mean, and that can sometimes be seen a bit negatively, can't it, by people in terms of, always, everything's positive, Mr. Nice Guy, that sort of stuff. But that's really important to me. Yeah. This positive mindset is absolutely crucial to me. I was chatting to my dad the other day. My dad's 86 years old, wonderful guy. Hugely successful, had a great life, and being a brilliant father to me and my brother Matt. And he's not been so well recently, and I've seen a lot of him because I've had a bit of time off since my last job, which has been great. So I've been able to spend a lot of time with mum and dad, who live locally. And I noticed when I rang him, I'd say to him, "How are you, Dad?" Or I saw him, he went, "Oh, I'm struggling a bit. And I said to him, "Dad, do you know what you say every time I see you? You say, I'm struggling a bit." I said, "Why don't you say, I'm all right, I'm doing good?" Mm-hmm. And it's something I picked up when we both worked back in David Lloyd. It was something I picked up at a leadership conference when Paul McKenna came to speak to us and he talked about the power of positivity and then these little triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since that day, when everybody has said to me, "How are you?" I've always said, "Great, I'm fine, good, yeah, look, yeah." And so many people say, "Not bad." 2 negatives.
Yeah.
And actually, the other day, Dad was in the kitchen on Good Friday. We had a family gathering, and obviously everyone was coming in. And just out the corner of my ear, I heard somebody said, "Hi, Joey, how are you?" We call him Joey, by the way, not Dad. And they asked him how he was. "Oh, I'm really well." And so he'd listened to,
what he said.
And you could almost see his body language changing.
Yeah.
And the recipient as well of that. And he is. He's old. He's medically. He's got a few challenges, but it was really great to hear. So I'm a real believer in that stuff. And there you go. I used the phrase, didn't I? But I think the power of positivity is huge. And getting the right mindset, and that's not always easy, is it?
No,
it's not always easy. And I've probably been quite fortunate that throughout my life, I'll talk about the word lucky at the end of this podcast. That gets sort of said to me quite a lot. You've been really lucky, but you earn that right. You earn that privilege through hard work, dedication, doing the hard yards.
So for your second song, I asked you to pick something that represented memories of childhood, and you picked a very interesting song, I think. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's one actually you've probably not got in your record collection, Anthony, I don't think. This one is titled Sunday Morning Music. When I started to look at it, so I was born in Edinburgh. My parents then moved down to the Wirral, and then when I was about 7 years old, they moved up to into the Lune Valley in Lancashire. My dad was a tunnelling engineer, so moved around from that point of view. And every Sunday morning, I'm sure he did this from a very early age, but I started to really remember it once we moved to Lancashire when I was about 7 years old. And every Sunday morning, I'd be woken by Dad's Sunday morning music, and there was a huge. A lot of it was classical music, a lot of Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Mozart, all that sort of stuff. And I can't name them all, but I would certainly remember them all. But this one really resonated because Scott Joplin used to be on all the time, and he used to play it really loud. And my bedroom was just above where the record player was, and he had this old chest in the living room that you sort of lifted the lid. And all the records were on the right-hand side, all the vinyl was on the right-hand side, and the record player. And I can vividly remember it. Yeah,
it would.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? And he used to latch it up, and he'd play it, and it became a real, really synonymous with Sunday mornings. That's why it was always known as Sunday morning music. And he started off, it was very classical, but gradually they'd sort of erred away from the classical and jazz, and they'd probably listen to some more contemporary music as we got older. So they started to sort of into,
Why was that, do you think?
I think maybe our influence as well. I mean, I'll talk about Springsteen later on, but, he started to appear, and Neil Diamond and people like that. So it was a bit of a broader selection. I mean, we were never musical as a family, but we certainly listened to a lot of music, and I have subsequently, throughout my life, listened to music constantly. But there's got, I mean, I reckon a lot of people will recognise that tune, but not know what it is.
Yes,
they'll be familiar with it,
yep.
Because it's one of the best known sort of jazz tunes. But it's it just takes me right back to the to Bold. It was called, where did we live? It was in Melling. It was a place called Melling. We used to live in Gillison Close in Melling, and as I said, every Sunday morning we'd have this. Here we go.
And why did he only do it on Sunday mornings? Is it a ritual?
Yeah, it probably was
ritual?
A bit of a ritual. I mean, I think I'm quite structured in our approach, and then there's nature of the beast to a certain extent. Dad was a civil engineer, very busy, working away a lot during the week. We were back at the weekends. He was quite active on a Saturday. Dad played local club rugby into his 40s, and was quite active and quite social as well. So I think Sunday was, and actually Sundays in those days were quieter. People did less on a Sunday.
Shops were shut.
Exactly. So there was more time for relaxation, and Dad's always been a great reader. So he would sit on the sofa and read. while Mum was, preparing the Sunday roast or whatever. Very traditional, very traditional English household. With the two boys sort of eventually getting up because they've been woken up by the rumblings below. So
I just imagine you shouting down, "Turn that bloody music down!"
I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. No, not at all.
The roles are reversed.
Yes,
there,
absolutely,
somewhat.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it'd be really fond memories of that track and and music throughout my relationship with my parents. So yeah, it was a really special one.
Now, David, I certainly recognise song 3. That's Bruce Springsteen's "Born to Run" from 1975. And with that one, you're answering the question about something that represents your first job.
Yeah, it's first job or first love, wasn't it? So I cheated a bit here because Springsteen is one of my first loves, you see. That's the way I interpret it. And, that song is just one of the greatest songs ever. It's epic. But, Springsteen is by far my favourite artist, by far. I've seen him live, I think 6 times now. And I was really interesting after my parents lived in just north of Lancaster in Gillison Close. My dad got a job in Sri Lanka.
Oh, wow.
And me and my brother went to boarding school in Lancaster Grammar. We were already in the grammar school, and we went to boarding school. So they went out there, and I think that was about, let me think what date that would have been, late 79, 80, they went. And we went out for our holidays. And we were out there in the summer holidays for 7 weeks. Fantastic. They built a purpose-built village out in a place called Digana, which is in central Sri Lanka, because Dad was working on a hydroelectric scheme. And there's a clubhouse there. And they used to have social things going on in a swimming pool and that sort of stuff. And there were 2 lads, they're older lads, who were attending Gordonstone School. And they had been to see Bruce Springsteen perform The River. That album had just come out.
Okay.
And they brought that album over that summer and they played it all summer. And that I was completely sold after that day.
So how old are you at this point?
I would have been, so it was 80 when I'd have been 13, 14.
Oh,
yeah. So, right in that sweet spot,
really the time
where you're looking for that, something to hang on to.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow, this music is incredible, absolutely incredible. I was sold. And then obviously River was a double album of amazing tracks.
And that was on it, that track?
No, that track wasn't on it, actually, because that's on the Born to Run album, which was before.
Okay.
But the River album had The River on it, obviously, it was a famous track as well, and Hungry Heart and all those ones that, people know. Some great tracks on it. And so that was my introduction to Springsteen, and I've listened to him ever since, and my boys listen to him now. I've even managed to drag Sally along twice to see Springsteen, which is quite an effort, and she actually does sort of enjoy it. But whilst there was at boarding school, my best mate Dave was a guy who was a day boy at the school, and I used to stay at his parents' house because I obviously didn't go out to Sri Lanka when we had weekends off or we had half terms. And
just summer holidays.
Yeah, exactly. It was summer 3 times a year, so your 3 big holidays we used to go out, which is fantastic, obviously. But obviously, so knowing Dave very well, I introduced him to Springsteen. So anytime Springsteen is touring now, we all go. So last year, myself, Dave, Helen, who's Dave's wife, and Sally, my wife, we all went to see Springsteen at Wembley again. And we've been before, and every time we go, me and Dave are on the phone, right, Springsteen's back, let's go and see him. So that's followed through from the age of 13, 14, 43 years later. Still a real key link for the two of us, actually. And then there's another theme in here. And the reason for choosing Born to Run is because of the word run. I've run all my life, and it's been a fundamental part of what I do and who I am. And I've had some amazing experiences through running. I did a presentation when I joined Zip World back in 2016. I did a presentation. Obviously, there was a commercial presentation, but then they asked me to do a presentation on something that I was passionate about. So I did a presentation on running.
Okay.
When I was doing the research, I was working out all the different continents I'd run in. And then I picked out some of the really special runs, some of the things that are really memorable. And I picked out 3, actually. One was Hong Kong, Because as a 16, my parents moved from Sri Lanka to Hong Kong. As a 16-year-old, I raced for Hong Kong against Singapore in a 4x400 meter relay, and we ended up third on the podium. And they let me go because I was the young lad. Dad had been training me during the summer on the track. And there's a track in a place called Wan Chai, which is on the north coast of the island of Hong Kong. So I had an amazing experience there. So I can look back and see that I had that opportunity. So that was the Hong Kong one. I then did a later on, I think it was about 2007. It was 2007 because the Rugby World Cup was on. Somebody had asked me to raise some money for motor neuron disease. Ironically, a guy at David Lloyd, Milton Keynes, had really tragically passed away at the end of the marathon, and he was raising money for motor neuron disease. And I knew somebody who'd asked me before to raise some money, and they were doing a charity marathon split into 2 half marathons in Athens for motor neuron disease. So I volunteered to do that, raise some money, and we ran the first half marathon the first day, right, from the original start point, that marathon.
Well,
the original route. And then the second day we ran into Athens. But the real fantastic point at the end was we finished in the original Olympic Stadium. They opened it up for us. Wow. And so I had a picture of myself running down and finishing. There's only about 10 of us who did it, and finishing in the Olympic Stadium. So that was an amazing experience, again, through running.
Yeah.
And then the final one that I remember is when I was working for Virgin Active, I had the privilege that Phil Tramfield, who was my boss at the time, offered to take me down to South Africa because obviously they had a network of clubs in South Africa. And we went down for 5 days, and we'd been in Cape Town for 3 days, and then we moved to Johannesburg. And on the final morning, I was on the treadmill, just running, and it was the day that Mandela died. And that morning, we were taken out to a club, which was very proximate to his house in Johannesburg, and it was almost we drove within 200 yards of all the people amassing near his house. So a moment in history.
Yes,
I was
you
there.
were down the road.
Yeah. It was
running.
Incredible. Yeah, exactly. It was just again, it's amazing what it can open up. And I looked at all the countries I've run in, and all the places I've explored, and all the things I've done, seen and experienced because of running, which I wouldn't have otherwise. I mean, Sally used to get quite frustrated with me because anywhere we went, my trainers were in the back. And she'd go, "You got your trainers?" No, I haven't got my trainers. At the last minute.
You started hiding the trainers.
Exactly. So I have run at some extremes of the day just to get my run in, because it's one. There's the fact that you meet people and you find new places and you have experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise have. The other thing is the psychological benefit.
Yeah.
When you're having a bad day.
Yeah. When
I was made redundant from David Lloyd, first thing I did when I got home, went for a run.
Yeah.
Cleared my head. I felt a damn sight better when I got back. So it's a real fundamental part of my. Unfortunately, I don't run as often these days because my body's is protesting a little bit. But when you run in a straight line for 40 years, it sort of has an impact, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When I was doing this presentation, for Zit World, I think I'd run 62,000 miles or something like that. It was super. It was like 3 times around the world or something.
You got a little clock.
Not in one go. No,
Yeah,
I knew I used to record my distance every week. Sort of thing I do,
Yeah.
And I used to run. And it used to be 40 miles a week was my. And you work that out over 30 years. It was actually where I did that kind of volume. It soon adds up. So yeah, it's and I think I'd used 120 pairs of trainers as well on the way.
Have you got them lined up in the cupboard somewhere?
No, I'm not allowed to. That's the other thing. I'm told every time I get a new pair of trainers, you have to get rid of another pair. That's the rule.
I'd find that very difficult.
I sort of hide them away in a corner somewhere in my shed. It's my favourite ones. It's like with old trainers.
I do, yeah.
They're very special.
Tell me more about that childhood in Hong Kong and in Sri Lanka. In what way did that have an effect on the way you see the world?
So they did 4 countries actually. They went Hong Kong, I think it's about 3 years. Sri Lanka first, a couple of years. Hong Kong, slightly longer. Singapore, and then Cairo.
Wow.
I was a really shy young lad when I was younger, and what it gave me was independence and confidence. I was traveling with my brother, my older brother Matt, who's 2 years older than me initially. Anyway, we were traveling together until obviously he went off to uni and stuff like that. And what it did was it sort of made you grow up really quickly.
Yeah.
And it also changed the relationship with my parents in that we became sort of equals rather than, subordinates to our parents. It really fundamentally changed that in a really positive way. And that's carried on right to this day, actually. It had a real impact, and it just gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of independence, and the ability just to think on your feet as well and deal with stuff and deal with, I was quite shy going into meeting new people and that sort of things, but you were just forced into it.
Yeah.
You had no choice.
Exposure.
I was staying with relatives, and then I was here, and you were traveling, and you were having to plan stuff. You have to get organised at that age. I remember one time Matt was ill when we were meant to be flying back. So I had to fly back on my own, and I was 13 years old, flying back from Hong Kong. And just having to just deal with it. And then get on the train from, you get into Heathrow, get the train to central London with all my stuff for the term. And it was it was those days, the Michaelmas term was like a 15-week term, and I was away from my parent 15 weeks. It's quite a long time for that age, and then travelling up to Lancaster. And, and it gave me, and ironically, I eventually, while I was at boarding school, between the age of, at the end of the first year of secondary school, so the age of 11 through to 18. And I was one of the prefects, then I was head of house at the end. And that was, then I was, 17, 18 years old, organising my peers who I'd live with. So it was a great grounding.
Early responsibility.
Yeah, leadership, management, how to approach. And I learned some harsh lessons, some really harsh lessons about how not to do stuff, but still some fundamental principles that stick with me to this day. And ironically, Dave, who I mentioned earlier, who was all the way through, he was head boy and I was head of house. And so again, partnership, sort of work together.
The head boy higher than the head of house?
I'm afraid so. Yes, he was just slightly higher than me in that respect. Yeah, he was.
You've let that go, though.
Yeah, obviously, I've let that go. It's not an issue at all. But no, and again, I look back and probably the best thing they ever did for me. I wouldn't send my own boys to boarding school. Mm-hmm. I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't.
Why not?
Because I enjoy their company. I like them being around. And that's not a judgment on my own parents, because they did the right thing for us at that time in the circumstances.
Yeah.
But absolutely not. Why would I not have my children with me?
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoy that interaction, and hopefully they do too. And it's just it was out of circumstance and necessity for my parents, and as I said, did me and my brother the power of good. And we were very fortunate. We were in a school already that had a boarding section, so we were able to just transfer at the end. I was able to transfer just at the end of the first year, and it was an academic school, but also a sporting school. Mm-hmm. So it had a really good balance in terms of that side of things.
Suits you.
Exactly. It was really appropriate, and there was two different boarding houses, and one was a bit more, I suppose, liberal, and that wouldn't have been any good for me. I was in the structured one, and it gave me that platform and that sort of foundation to the way I was going to be, especially in business, moving forward the rest of my career.
I want to ask you about Bruce Springsteen's lyrics, because although I haven't got many albums of his,
yes,
my impression of him is he writes from a working class perspective. Does that mean something special to you?
Not so much. It's more about he's just a great storyteller, isn't he? I mean, any song you can interpret in your own way.
Yes.
The lyrics, can't you? And I'm not into this sort of, that's what it means, that song. It's what it means to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely what it means to you, and what it means to me is what it reminds me of, more so than the actual lyrics. Actually, I mean, he's one of the few artists where I can actually remember all the lyrics of the songs, of some of his songs, which I do struggle with these days quite a lot. But he just talks about life, doesn't he? And life in America and his own upbringing. He's not. I don't get the impression he's on some moral crusade.
No,
not at all. He just tells stories about life, and I mean, and he does.
Ordinary.
About
the ordinary.
He does. I think the only time is after 9/11, isn't he? He wrote an album which is really moving. Actually, when you listen to the lyrics of that album, it is. Yeah, there's some songs on there which are incredibly moving. But obviously that meant a huge amount to him. So, he's a brilliant songwriter and an amazing performer. He's incredible to see live. He does a 3-hour set with his band and non-stop, and he's in his early 70s now. But yeah, the lyrics are, he's just got some great songs. The tunes are fantastic. And if you listen to my music choice, as you'll hear today, if you look at my selection, it is almost all male vocal, which I get criticised for quite a lot, actually, by my other half, So it is nearly all my favourite artists.
It is, isn't it? And why is that?
I don't know, just like the tone, I think. The tone of the voice, I think.
You like singing along in the car?
Yeah. I haven't got a very high-pitched voice, so no, it's...
there's no Bee Gees on here, that's what I've noticed.
We occasionally listen to a bit of Bee Gees, but I certainly couldn't reach that level. But no, I just like that tone of voice. A lot of my music's like that. Yeah.
For track 4, David, I asked you to pick a song that you'd have playing in a movie that we would make of your life. And you've come up with a really interesting choice, I thought.
Yeah, Father and Son, Cat Stevens. It's a beautiful song, absolutely beautiful song. And actually, Sally introduced me to Cat Stevens when we first met. I'd never really listened to any of his music before. And when we were, obviously, when I was thinking about these songs today, as I said right at the beginning, I could have chosen 800 songs. And I was really struggling. I had this massive long list. Everyone's in the car or anywhere. I was going to my phone and going, right, thought of that song, put that song on the list, put that song on the list. And so as I get closer to the date of coming here today, I was trying to sort of refine that list down from a lot to 8. And so I was really struggling, actually. So I got on the family WhatsApp. Gave them the list and said, look, this is what I've got songs for, and started to get some suggestions in from my boys. And me and Sally had chatted about it. And then last week, I was in the kitchen, and Dylan, my youngest son, and Ollie, my eldest, was there. And Harry had already given some input on Born to Run, actually. He'd said that's the one, Dad, for that. He was my middle son. And we started chatting through song by song. And we got to this one. And they went, yeah, bang, that's the song, Dad. That's the song. And actually, they were absolutely right, because this is about my 3 boys. Yeah. Ollie, Harry, and Dylan. But it's also about my relationship with my own father. And if you listen to the song, it's a father speaking, then it's a son speaking. And the father's being quite, I suppose, not direct, but he's giving his son some advice. Mm-hmm. And again, you can interpret it in different ways, but it wasn't meant to be, directive, I don't think, from what I've read about the lyrics. And then the son responds, and so the father's there saying, "Take your time, think a lot, and just which is absolutely right. I think about myself and Sally and the way we tried to bring our boys up. We tried to give them a certain amount of freedom to make their own choices, mm-hmm. with some, freedom within a framework, So we give them some nudges along the way, when they go off track, but let them sort of find out for themselves with a bit of input and coaching where it's appropriate, but without being domineering or directive. And same with my relationship with my own dad. I mean, Dad was quite of his generation when I was young, and very much the authority in the house. And brilliant. Don't get me wrong, and loving. But you knew where you stood, and there was an obvious hierarchy. And he's softened over the years massively. And he's involved with it, especially when you get grandkids and that sort of stuff. But I suppose me and Sally have taken a slightly different approach, which at times can be frowned upon, in terms of being slightly liberal, mm-hmm. with the upbringing, but it's flipping worked.
Frowned upon by your dad?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think maybe it's
frowned upon generally.
Yeah, I think maybe that's my perception, of the way you should or shouldn't bring children up, because you're not taught how to do it. No, you just do it and you learn as you go along. And but I would like to think that we've got the balance absolutely right. We've got a wonderful relationship with them. They're 3 lovely lads. They've got strong values. I'm massively proud of them, and they'll walk into a room and they'll just behave in the right way. They treat people with respect. They they've got the 2 older ones have started work recently and doing really well. But that's not about them. That's not about them achieving and earning loads of money. No, that's about them, developing and growing as people in a new environment and being recognised for doing that. And then they've got the youngest Dylan, who's a live wire, still at uni, loving life, but still, one of 3 wonderful people. And again, my relationship with my dad is probably closer than ever now, because he's mellowed and softened over the years and got to know him better. And as I said, that initial period in Hong Kong and Singapore where the relationship change was fundamental in that respect, and that's carried on. And as I said, I've had a load of time off recently. I see Mum and Dad at least once a week now. We spend time together. We go for lunch and we have a chat, and that's developed a really, really strong, close relationship, which is really special. And I'm about to go back to work next month, but I'll look back at these 4 months as a really special time where I've been able to both because obviously I've been working away for the last 8 years.
Yes.
So coming back, it's great to spend time with my parents. The other thing was, I knew I'd probably be coming back early this year, but we obviously couldn't disclose it to the family because it was to do with a transaction in a business. And then about 3 months before I was due to come back, Harry announced he's moving out. He's going to rent a place. I'm like, oh God, they're all going to move out. Ollie's moving out with his girlfriend. And in fact, that's been delayed a bit. It was meant to be April this year, but he's going out in May. But they're local still, thank God. And obviously Dill's at university as well. But it's just the little things. This song's about just spending time with my family, and particularly my boys. Yeah. And I've done that in bucket loads of it. And it's the little things you can do. The time you've now got to just spend with them, and my dad, and those just going for a coffee. It's the simple stuff. It's not the big stuff, It's just time spent with people, and being able to add a bit of value and being there, just for little bits. And Dad, can you help me with this? Or Dad, can you do this? Picking up deals from uni, and just having a bit more. Sally was saying the other week we went away for the weekend, and normally on a Monday morning I'd be getting up at 4 o'clock and charging up to North Wales. But we were able on the way back from the Peters, we stopped off in Nottingham and picked up Dills and his girlfriend, took them for lunch. Had a bit of time, and I normally wouldn't have done that because I'd be too set on I need to get back, I need to get ready for tomorrow. So it just gives you time, and it's great time, and it's really valuable. So
it sounds so precious because for lots of different reasons, there's a lot of absent fathers nowadays, and to hear your love and commitment to your sons, it's something to behold, I think, and the relationship between all three generations. That you're talking about is wonderful to hear. Yeah,
I mean, we saw it. So we had everybody around Good Friday, which was lovely, actually. But I have nature of our roles and that we've both done over the years. Think about I was working regionally, and then nationally, and then I've always been travelling. So, like I say, it's been a real privilege these last 4 months just to make the most of it because you've got a reference point, my Sally's done an amazing job over the last 8 years of raising 3 urchins like that. And they've been challenging. Of course they have. They were, when I left, Dills was 12. Yeah, Dills would have been 12. Harry 16, and Ollie 18. They are challenging years. Yeah, and she's working at the same time. Wow. And all through that, she's done a remarkable job actually, and remained sane and kept me in check as well. And and been really supportive to me as well in terms of what I was doing, because that was about my career. It was obviously with the family in mind in the longer term.
Yes,
of course it was.
Yes,
of course it was.
Yeah,
that was one of the fundamentals. But still, she deserves the old cliche. She certainly deserves a medal for what she's done over the last 8 years.
Now, David, for question 5, I wanted you to come up with a song that brings out the emotion in you. Mm-hmm. And I've got a feeling that you might have selected this for sporting reasons. Tell me more about this particular song.
Yes, you are correct. As I mentioned earlier, brought up on the Wirral initially, from between the age of sort of 2 months and 7 years old, living in a place called Bebington, which is on the north coast of the Wirral. And that was in the 70s. So...
best team in the world.
Well,
then
who else are you going to? Toshak and Hughes and Keegan.
What were Tranmere Rovers doing at this
I've absolutely no idea. But and so that was sort of embedded in me from that age, and sort of followed Liverpool. And as I wouldn't say I was I didn't attend any matches as a youngster, but just followed them massively. And I played football as a youngster, not to particularly high standard, but local club football. And just love Liverpool, just absolutely love Liverpool. And once the boys were born, I obviously brainwashed them into loving Liverpool as well. So all three are massive Liverpool fans. So these days I go far more often, which isn't massively often, don't get me wrong. My boys go, my eldest boy, Ollie, probably goes the most. I think he's been 4 times this season. I've only been once this season. I probably go once a season. But Liverpool's, the club and the city got really, really, big place in my heart. But the reason we went to Liverpool originally was my dad, again, civil engineer, was building the tunnels across under the Mersey. And the Liverpool Loop Line, which was the trains over there. So
the Liverpool Metro.
Yes, yeah, a bit of both while we're over there. So he's been a tunneler all his life. That's the connection with Liverpool. And I suppose my affection for Liverpool has grown. My brother went to university in Liverpool as well. I spent a lot of time when I was sort of 17, 18, 19, going down to visit him when he was a student down there. And had some amazing experience. I mean, what a great city, great people. And just an interesting place.
It's a city with its own character.
Oh, 100%. The people are fantastic. I mean, I actually, when we left the Wirral and we moved up to Lancashire, we got a bit of stick because we had slight Scouse accents, actually. And so we got, as usual, when you go anywhere else as a Scouser, we weren't Scousers, absolutely, truly, but we had that twang, so we got a bit of stick. But I love the accent and the people. You get in a taxi in Liverpool and they just talk to you.
So friendly.
They just talk to you. They're just nice people.
Yeah.
And we went up, actually, we've all been individually up to see Liverpool. And I've been up with each boy individually. And Dills won't mind me telling the story. The other two had been to see Liverpool, and Dills was desperate to go in his sort of teenage years and had never been. And I think it was his 15th or 16th birthday, I'd managed to get some tickets, hospitality for Liverpool Man City. And that was in the year they won the league.
Okay.
So just before lockdown. And the game was in November, I think it was. And Liverpool won 3-1, great game. But in the lead up to it, on his birthday, which is in September, we gave him his present. We have normal family stuff. Give him the presents, or everybody's around and that sort of stuff. We were in the kitchen, and I'd given him as a deflection an Anfield Road sign for his birthday. So there you go. And then we were standing around and we'd done the cake and stuff. And he's like, I said, I've forgotten something. And I'd set up the speaker with that song. Right? And it started playing. And then I went out the back and got an envelope, which was the hospitality tickets to, and bless him, burst into tears.
Oh.
And he was so happy. And he cried his eyes. I mean, he couldn't stop crying. And his brothers were horrible because they videoed him crying to this. But that, and that song there was, just resonated. And whenever I've gone to Anfield, and I've spoken to people about it, if you, it's one of those things you have to tick on your bucket list. You have to hear Anfield sing "You Never Walk Alone," and I challenge you not to burst into tears. It is phenomenal, and I slightly more on a slightly more somber note. I used to go. I went 3 or 4 times with a Scouse friend of mine called John Ellaby, and a true Scouser. And sadly he passed away about 5 weeks ago, and we went to his funeral 2 weeks ago, and at the end of the funeral they played this tune with a montage of the pictures, and that was pretty special, actually. So that is a real special memory of somebody in that place, and that's what resonates for me from that point of view. So it's a very special place in my heart, that song.
So that's Greatest Day by Take That from 2008, I think. And for this one, I was looking for you to pick a song that meant something family orientated.
Yeah, so a bit more upbeat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than some of the other ones. There you go. That's about as upbeat as it gets. But yeah, this is it's just about the family. I've talked about the family a lot today, haven't I? But this is a sort of period of time. This is lockdown, actually. This is lockdown, because lockdown was 2020, March 2020. I'd been there for about 4 years by then, travelling away 10 days at a time, coming back for 4 days, and obviously been away a lot. And actually, so lockdown was a bit of a blessing, because boys were back from uni, whole family in the house,
yeah,
and every weekend you had to sort of work out what you're going to do, didn't you?
Mm.
And so it was pretty social, actually. And we did it. We had some friends and stuff that we did stuff on over teams. And I mean, we had a theme each weekend, or each couple had to develop a theme and, do an activity, whatever it was, quiz or whatever it was. But we obviously spent a huge amount of time together as a family, and we partied quite a lot on the sort of on the Friday and Saturday nights, and we listened to a huge amount of Take That, and this song in particular, I remember.
There's a large group of people now who have fond memories of lockdown.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
I don't think you're alone.
No, it was very for different people in different circumstances. We were very fortunate. Obviously the weather was great, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was amazing. Yeah. We could get out in the back garden, and you could and thank God you could still exercise on your own. So it kept me sane from that point of view. It was difficult from a work point of view. We'd obviously furloughed 300 staff. There was 8 of us left in these what we call the skeleton team. And we all worked from home. So I was working remotely from North Wales, back down in Northampton. But great to be back with the family, and just spend day after day with them. The boys were sort of studying remotely as well, so they were occupied to a certain extent during the day. Sally works from home anyway, so we made the most of the sort of social time that we had together, and Take That was constantly on coming out the speakers, at the weekends. And I think I'm right in saying, let me think, it was probably the second half of lockdown, just coming out of lockdown. I've got some pictures on my phone of Sal's birthday, and there's a video in there of, it was certainly towards the end of the evening, you could tell by the behaviour, and there's the 5 of us in the kitchen. There's the 5 of us in the kitchen. Take That is absolutely blaring out, and everybody is singing, arms in the air, singing at the top of their voice, and it's just a wonderful moment again, of just having a good time. It's that simple. There's nothing more, deep and meaningful to my love for Take That than just, when we went to see him in British Summertime in Hyde Park. Went to see them live the following summer, and because Take That are one of those bands where they sort of were really popular for a certain cross section, then they became a bit naff.
That's right.
And people, but all of a sudden, it's all right to listen to Take That, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's quite cool now. All of a sudden,
I think when I first met you, if I'd said I'd like Take That, you'd have
I probably would.
ridiculed me.
I probably would, yeah, I probably would. I probably did.
I think you probably did, because I love their earlier 90s stuff.
Yeah, so we all grow to love these things, and I turned, and there you go. I think the music's brilliant, but it's no more than that. It for me, it's quite simple music.
Yes,
but it's melodic, and it makes you happy.
Yeah,
and again, it's representative of a certain point in time, which was really good. I mean, we think about lockdown and what we all went through there, stop, start.
Yeah.
And it was, we all, and I think some of the things, obviously, you hear a lot, don't you, about lockdown and whether it had a positive impact or a negative impact, and the things that have carried on since. I think, certainly from my point of view and our point of view as a family, and from a business point of view, it was actually quite positive when you look back overall in terms of the outturn. From a business point of view, we managed to sustain the business really positively through that time. And then obviously, post-lockdown, it went ballistic.
Yeah.
Because everybody sat at home during lockdown going, right, what are we going to do after all of this?
Absolutely,
I want some shared experiences out and about doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so bang, it was stratospheric, the growth straight afterwards.
What was already happening in the experience economy...
Exactly. It just amplified it.
Yeah.
I remember exactly that. That's exactly the narrative I was using. It was already happening in 2019 as we came towards 2020. People wanted shared experiences, wanted a challenge, wanted to, a sense of achievement when they did stuff rather than material goods. Exactly. And that. But this was like, right, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And we were lucky because we're outdoor. So post-lockdown, our activities are outdoor.
You opened earlier than...
We were within the constraints of the Welsh Government, obviously. But we were able to operate almost we had obviously lower capacity, still social distancing from that point of view, but we were able to operate, which meant that we could really hit the ground running. It was a bit stop-start because there was the fire breaks in Wales and that sort of stuff. But we launched a new business on the day after lockdown opened fully that was in 21, wasn't it? I think it was in April 21 that after the Christmas lockdown, things opened up again, and we were able to operate at decent capacity, but still being safe.
Yeah.
because obviously people were very nervous. I mean, it was a really interesting time, actually. It was probably the most challenging time because we were really busy. Mm-hmm. Customers' behaviour had changed.
Yeah.
And team members had been off for a year and weren't really up for this. Oh my God, it's full on.
Yeah.
As we all know, everybody had different reactions to how people should behave. And so it was quite challenging as an operator because they wanted you to be the judge and jury about how people should behave, and that's not. You're adults. You're human. You know the parameters. Mm-hmm. We'll set the guidelines, or the government set the guidelines. We'll put those in place in our facilities, but then over to you.
What are you doing about that person that just sneezed?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly that, and it's so that was, and particularly for the frontline teams who dealt with it absolutely brilliantly. But it was quite challenging. But we were fortunate in terms of our type of activity and where it was based, in terms of coming out of that compared to some other operators. So we actually did benefit in that sense in that period afterwards. But it was pretty challenging.
With this penultimate track, David, when I played your playlist at the weekend, this is the one that I enjoyed the most. But it really brought tears to my eye. It's such an amazing song by R.E.M. And I think you picked it around the question of your future. So I'm really intrigued to know what this song means to you and your future.
Yeah, future's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's obviously undefined as far as you go, and you don't want to be too presumptive about what's going to happen in the future. But R.E.M. had to be one of the songs of these 8, had to be, because I just, sitting below Springsteen is Michael Stipe and R.E.M. Myself and Sally spent a huge amount of time listening to R.E.M. We had the privilege of going to see them in Hyde Park when they were touring back in, blimey, when would that have been? I can't think, early 2000s, I think it was. And that was an amazing experience. But and we when we first met, when we first got married, the album "Automatic for the People" came out, which is a phenomenal album. Every single track is just wonderful. And this song, I think, follows on from "Man on the Moon."
It does, yeah.
It's by Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
Stipe was a bit of a poet, wasn't he, really? Mm-hmm. And we've been following him for years thinking, please will you do a reunion? He's never going to do it. He's far too principled to do that. He said he's not going to, and he's not going to do it. But fascinating character, and it's a real shame that they haven't reformed, because, I think it'd be a bun fight to get the tickets, actually.
It would be, yeah.
It would be horrendous. Yeah. But this song is just it's a wonderful bit of music, but it's just that line, "I'm pushing an elephant up the stairs." That's it, and that in terms of the lyrics, that's about achieving the impossible.
Yeah,
that's what it's about. That's being sort of getting your mindset right. Again, back to this positive mindset that I can achieve these things, and it's also for me about resilience. And to throw a few cliches in there, it's about inputs and outputs, which I firmly believe in. Mm-hmm. And it's about, I've mentioned the phrase hard yards before. In life, wherever you get the inputs right and you do the hard yards, you always ultimately at some point see the output.
Yeah.
If you're doing the right thing for the right reasons. And there's some of my, that's basically my mantra, my terms of reference for who I am and what I do and why I do stuff. But there you go. And it's, I really believe in that. I was reading something the other day, actually. Dan Bigger, he's an international rugby player. I love my rugby, following Northampton Saints, and he used to play for Northampton Saints, Welsh fly half. Wonderful guy. And he, I don't know if you saw the Man United match the other week, the 7-6.
Yes.
Unfortunately, when it was 4-2, I decided to go to sleep. But my boys watched it and woke up the next morning. Dan Bigger had posted on LinkedIn an article about Harry Maguire. Not Harry Maguire. It is Harry Maguire, isn't it? It is Harry Maguire. Got stuck with the film then. That's Jerry Maguire. Harry Maguire is the right name. Another great film, by the way. That's a great film. And just a brilliant article about his admiration for Harry Maguire. And at the top of the article, it says, resilience is very rarely recognised. It's other things that are recognised. I thought it was a really good quote. And he talks about the journey, that his admiration for Harry Maguire and the journey that he's been through. And he stuck at it to get that one moment at the end, and credit to the guy, because he's been verbally abused, online and, really vilified. Mm-hmm. But he and I'm a flipping Liverpool supporter, and I'm saying this about a Man United player, and I liked it. I pressed like on it, and people will look at that on my LinkedIn thing, go, why is he liking something to do with Man United? But that's irrelevant. It was about the individual, I thought, and it was just brilliantly written. Just a short sort of 4-paragraph article by Dan Bigger on that achievement. And so my point is about the future is you've got to earn the right. You've got to earn the right to your future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I've worked away for 8 years. Sally's managed the kids for 8 years, and that's been, we needed resilience to do that. That's been a real challenge, but therefore your future is brighter because of that, because of the effort you've put in, and where you start to see the outputs. I've had these 4 months off, which is a wonderful output from that.
Yeah.
I think Sally's quite pleased about that because I've managed to decorate most of the house as well at the same time. So I've been quite productive. So she's seen a benefit as well. and I do cook every evening, so she's seen a benefit as well. So, so you've got to, stuff doesn't just land in your lap. And you can often learn that quite early in life through some harsh lessons, so occasionally you don't see an output, but 9 times out of 10, you will see some. I'm not talking about reward or that's all recognition. I'm just talking about the fact that things will fall into place. But you've got to have that foundation in place. I mean, I'm very fortunate, as I said early on, with the family foundation and that side of things. If you have that in place, and then you, on top of that, you work hard. You do the best you can in each area of your life. Then you see the outputs. It's like the exercise piece, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
If you exercise regularly and appropriately, it's all right. If you can exercise regularly and do it all wrong, but exercise regularly and appropriately, do it in the right way, you will see the benefit, guaranteed. That's what I used to love about the industry.
Yes,
because it made people feel better about themselves.
Outputs again.
Yeah. A product which you could guarantee.
Yeah.
I can guarantee, as an instructor, if you come in and do the things I've asked you to do, and follow my input and a few tips here and there, you will, one, probably get fitter. You might lose a bit of weight, but fundamentally you'll feel better about yourself. Yeah, and that's pretty powerful, isn't it?
It is.
You can't put a price on that. So it's those kind of principles, and that's why I used to love that, and still do love that industry as a customer rather than somebody who's delivering it.
The final track of the podcast, David, is your wildcard choice. So I said to you could pick any song you like from any era, and you picked the Dunwells.
Yeah.
It's an artist or a group I've not come across before. Tell me why you picked them and this song.
Yeah, it was really difficult actually because wildcard, we're just, like I said at the start, this massive sort of musical history and all sorts of music I've listened to throughout my life, and so I needed a bit of help with this. And this is where my middle son Harry came in, and he just sent me the Dunwells. Didn't tell me which song, so the Dunwells, and it was like, yes, perfect, absolutely perfect. Because the Dunwells are 2 brothers from Leeds, and we discovered them at the Cornbury Festival in 2022. I've been to Cornbury a couple of times. Lovely little festival and great. In fact, it's not far from here, actually. Great Chew Park, which is round Oxford Way.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some posters.
Yeah. And they haven't done it for the last 2 years, but we'd been once before and discovered a local act from Northampton who we still listen to. And then it's they have about 3 stages. At Cornbury, it's very middle class. The Cornbury Festival.
Well, that's most festivals nowadays.
It is very middle class, but it's quite petite compared to the big festival. So
with children being pulled along in cars,
exactly, on the drunkies and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's I think it's about 4,000 people. Yeah. So it's not, but they get the big acts there, but very again middle of the road. Middle of the road act. Brian Adams was there that time, and Jules Holland was there, which is great, and some acts which you've never heard of before. And I always look. I'm quite a studier. Before we go to things, I like to understand what I'm going to see and have a look at what's on there. And I was reading about these guys called the Dunwells, and there's a thing called the Cafe Nero, sponsored by Cafe Nero. It's a tent. This is a cafe. And they bring bands up on a small little stage, and it's really intimate, and there's about 50 people in there, and you just go and find it. And it was a Sunday. We'd been there, got there on the Friday, and we'd had a really heavy night on the Saturday, and we weren't in the best shape on the Saturday, on the Sunday morning, and so we took it pretty easy, and we were sat outside the cafe, and I said to Harry, my middle son, these dumbbells, they've got a bit of a following. There's something about them. Why don't we stop and listen to them? And these two brothers came on, and they were just, the chemistry between them is fabulous. And then they started singing, and they write their own stuff. And apparently they've got a massive following in Leeds. And it was like, wow, just fabulous music, from the heart. And they were just quirky and entertaining and just great lads.
There's a lot of emotion in the voice.
Oh yeah. And I think that's the lead singer's called Joe, but they take the mickey out of each other because they know each other so well, and it's just really natural and genuine, and the songs were just fabulous. And so we'd seen them at Cornbury, and then I sort of followed up afterwards and thought, all right, we need to go and see it. We need to go and see them again. So they were performing in London about a year later. I think that was called the Ministry. It's near them. It's an offshoot of the Ministry of Sound, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's like a posh members club. And me and Harry went because we'd seen them obviously, and Harry wanted to go. And there was this little room out the back of the club. I think we paid like 30 quid to go and see him. And it's like there's like 25 people in there, and I'm like, how can these guys not be more popular? And they were great, and we had a chat with them at the end. We got a photograph taken with them at the end. We had a right good chat, and we were telling them about seeing them at Cornbury and all that sort of stuff, and they were just so engaging, and the music was brilliant. And so went to see them again. Oh, let me think. When was it? Was it last year or the year before? They were performing in a village hall in Didcot.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got an Uber from Northampton to Didcot because there's no other way of getting there in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, it was about the most horrendous place to get to. Yeah. And again, we saw them in this little village hall. A few more people. There's probably about 60 people, and they had a guest singer who was fantastic, and they were just brilliant again. And this time, Dylan came along, my youngest son. It was actually his birthday, bless him. He came along on his birthday, and we took him as well. And we got chatting to the guys afterwards again, and they just make great songs. And the reason we are the lucky ones, the lyric is, there's this pointing around luck and that sort of thing. Links to some of the stuff I've said today. That ultimately, a lot of times people say, "Oh, you've been really lucky, haven't you? You've been really lucky." And I used to get really irritated by that because it was just by chance, but it's not. Yeah, it's not by chance. People whoever it is, who's achieved in whatever field they've achieved in, it's again back to this point around hard work, resilience. Goes through the hard times, getting through that, and then the outputs come ultimately, and then you can say, "Oh, I have been lucky." Because of all these things or we have as a team, or whoever has, whoever you're talking about, whether it's a football team or it's about what's been put in that comes out. You could say Liverpool have been lucky this season, well, they haven't, have they?
44 times.
Yeah, exactly. Or those, Leeds and Burnley yesterday.
Yeah.
I was listening to that this morning, Burnley. Yeah. Incredible. 29 clean sheets. Conceded 15 goals. That takes input, work, commitment from the team, buy-in, teamwork, leadership, takes all those factors, doesn't it, to create that. That's phenomenal. You listen to that on the way over, and that's what this is about. You and I do feel, I personally feel very lucky, incredibly lucky, in terms of what I can now do. But that's taken 30 odd years of me and Sally working together, to get to this point. Yeah, and then it is massively enjoyable. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it isn't. But there's been, we have been fortunate, and I would say we've been fortunate that we've not faced any real challenges along the way. Not significant. A lot of other people are, a lot less fortunate than we are, and we're fortunate there haven't been things that have interrupted that we can't control. Yes, but ultimately, it's still down to that input that's been put in over those years to get to that point. And these guys are just. You really should go and you would love them. I know you would. And they're touring again. Actually, me and Harry were looking the other day trying to see them this year because they're just infectious. They just put a smile on your face and buzz, and they're brilliant to listen to. And it's from the heart. They sing from the heart, and
well, that comes across.
Yeah.
The moment I heard his voice when I first heard this playlist, I liked it. I liked the sound of it. So I'd be tempted to go and see them. And David, it's interesting. You can feel lucky because of things like health and the global poverty versus what we have here in the UK, but at the same time recognise your own contribution to those lucky moments in your own life. Both those things are possible.
Yes,
you can only play the cards that you've had dealt.
Well, you can, but you can influence them to a certain point either way, can't you?
Yes.
There's a sort of a spectrum within which you will achieve or not, as the case may be, depending on the way you approach it.
Yeah.
But I think these two guys are a great example, because what strikes me about these two guys, when I first watched them, I used to say to Danny, why haven't they been more successful? Why haven't they been? And I was reflecting on it, thinking, maybe they're just really happy doing what they're doing, and they are,
and that's allowed. Yeah.
And they play lots of local gigs. They play gigs all over the country, and they're dead happy.
Yeah.
They don't need the big,
No, because it doesn't seem to make the famous ones very happy.
No, it doesn't, does it? And then they're just brilliant guys, And then I think they're a great example. I mean, and there's thousands and thousands of people like them, aren't there? That are at that sort of level, who've got a following, but haven't broken into the big time necessarily. And actually, they're often more talented than the ones at the very top, because they just haven't had the break, or they haven't had something else, or that one song, or that one situation that's catapulted them into that next level.
A little bit of luck.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, David, thank you so much for coming on A Story in Music podcast by Johnson Digital. It's been a pleasure hearing your 8-song playlist and your life story that sits behind it. I just want to finally open the floor to you for any final comments about your life, the experience of putting the music together, anything you'd like to add at the end.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up, as we never struggle to have a chat, do we, Anthony? So over the years, no, it's been a really great process, actually, working through this and getting ready for it. Because it just made me do stuff that, again, I wouldn't have otherwise done. And sitting down and chatting to the family and thinking about, the songs that are important to me and what they represent, and looking back a bit, because you don't often really look back in detail, bits and pieces like this. And the interesting thing was, when we were together on Friday, there was the whole family around, they were asking me what I was, and I mentioned that I was doing this week, and everybody was really interested. And they're like, oh, can we listen to it? Can we watch it? Can we, and then and I had to tell them, and we had to sort of say which songs and why. And I was telling them that, obviously, they didn't make them sit there for an hour while we'd done what we'd just done. So listen to me say, oh, and this song's this, and that's what. It was just, these are the songs, and this is
like, hold court for an hour.
Sit now, okay, listen to me. But no, it's been a really, nice opportunity just to reflect and look forward at the same time, at a time when I've got a bit of time to do it as well. So it's been ideal, it's been an ideal opportunity and timing for me to take 5, which we don't often do we? And also just to, some of the music's phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, not everybody will like my taste in music, but for me, that's quite a broad range for me, because I am slightly narrow in my what I listen to most of the time, which is obviously Springsteen led, but it made me sort of broaden my horizons a little bit in terms of think about tunes that are significant throughout my life. And really pleasurable experience, actually. And I'm a real fan of the sort of format, because it just gives you. Otherwise, if it was like come along and do a podcast and talk about your life, it'd be really difficult.
You need some structure,
it'd be bloody boring as well without the tunes. But it just gives it that structure, doesn't it? Yeah. And makes you remember certain points as you go through. But it also made me reflect on what's important to me.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you a bit better, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you.